Welcome back. Anxiety, depression, and burnout are nothing new, but it seems they have recently become a part of the everyday lives of many. Despite how overwhelming a problem may seem, reducing stress and anxiety and depression is possible if you have the right tools. With us today is Dr. Greg Hammer, author of the book Gain Without the Pain. Hi, Doctor. Thanks for joining us today.
Good morning, Warren. Great to be with you.
Thank you so much. Now, with so many people struggling with feelings of anxiety and depression, what's the first thing that you would recommend? Can we start with the letter G?
Sure. Well, I think you're referring to the acronym in the book, which is GAIN, and the G stands for gratitude. So we can start with that because I think gratitude is inexorably linked to happiness. I think you can imagine somebody who is poor and happy, somebody who may have physical disabilities and happy, but you really can't imagine somebody who's ungrateful and happy. And I think that brings us to gratitude because we all have very much for which to be grateful.
Okay, so you have the acronym GAIN. So the letter A, what's the next step here?
Well, I am personally very much feeling the letter A today because I grew up and was born in the small town of Highland Park, Illinois, which is, of course, the focus of a lot of news today and yesterday because of a shooting that happened there. And of course, this is not unique to Highland Park, Illinois, but it seems to be going on every day. And it's really painful to contemplate. And I think there's so much pain going on today, the pain that we all experience from the conflict in Ukraine, the innocent people being killed for no apparent reason every day. There are so many other things we could talk about with regard to the effect of the economy, of COVID, et cetera. And the way to deal with pain is ironically, or perhaps opposite of what many people think, is actually to accept it. And the A in GAIN is acceptance. And there's a formula in the book, Warren: suffering equals pain times resistance. And there are so many ways to resist pain. Trying not to think about it, depersonalizing when it comes to somebody else's unfortunate circumstances. And it's really important to actually focus on that pain, bring it in, open our hearts to it, and merge with it. So there's really no distance. And I think many of us experience tragic circumstances, painful events, and we tend to push them away. And I think acceptance is really key to happiness.
I feel like you're saying acceptance is also don't avoid, just own it, or like really, really feel it and process it. Okay, that's an unexpected. Okay, how about I? What do we do with I?
I is intention. And I think these principles of GAIN are really all interrelated. Intention means that our default circumstance, the way our brains are wired, is actually to be very negative and to be very distracted by the past and future. And happiness lives in the present moment. And one of my heroes is Dr. John Kabat-Zinn, who's one of the founders of what we now call mindfulness in our society. And he defined mindfulness as awareness of the present moment on purpose, non-judgmentally. And so happiness is in that present moment. And we need to, if we want to be happy, learn to experience that and not automatically go to negative thoughts and thoughts of the past and the future. And so with regard to accepting pain, for example, it is somewhat counterintuitive. So we have to be intentional or purposeful about it, just as we do with being positive and grateful for the positive things in our lives and focusing on the present moment.
It's like an automatic response, but we can control that automatic response.
We can rewire our brains. Our brains have this magic quality called neuroplasticity, but it requires purposefulness or intention.
Okay, so the final part of the acronym GAIN.
The N in GAIN, Warren, is for non-judgment. And again, our minds are always going to comparisons of this is better than that, or he is better looking than I am, or she is smarter than I am. And because of our negativity bias, we actually judge ourselves most harshly. Everybody can appreciate that. There are a lot of data to support we're much harder on ourselves than we would be a good friend. And again, this is the natural way that our minds work. And so if we want to be happy, we have to intentionally focus on non-judgment, letting go of that judgment. So when I do my game practice every morning, Warren, I think of one of these beautiful NASA images of the Earth suspended in space. And it's clear to me the Earth is neither good nor bad. I don't have to judge the Earth. And then it only makes sense for me to turn inward and say the same about myself. I am neither good nor bad. I don't need to judge myself. I simply am the person that I am. And so these four the acronym game go to these four pillars of mutually interrelated keys of happiness.
Okay, so I think you kind of already touched on it, but you also say just 3 minutes a day can improve a negative thinking. Can you explain that a little bit?
We get up in the morning, we open the blinds, we do our morning hygiene, and then we sit for 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, and we start with our breath. We really focus on the magic qualities of our breath, in, pausing, releasing, and then we simply go to a brief contemplation of that for which we're grateful, the pain that we experience, that we actually focus on opening our hearts and bringing this in, the I for intention, that we can be purposeful and rewire our neuroplastic brains. And then the N is just non-judgment and whatever imagery comes to mind to help us learn through our intention to simply drop those judgments, particularly the self-judgments. And then we return to the breath. And what this does is it sets us up for going back to these principles during the day. And it's a magical thing, really.
Fantastic. Where can we go to get more information or get a copy of your book?
Well, you could go to my website, Greg Hammer, MD, GregHammerMD.com.
Thank you, doctor, so much. We'll be right back.